Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today we will talk about the gradual warming of relations between Russia and Pakistan. Over the last few years, Russia, which has been the closest ally of India, has been seen moving closer and closer to our hostile neighbor Pakistan. The two countries have even held joint military exercises. Russian ambassador to Pakistan met Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Bajwa recently and praised Pakistan, saying it had made quote unquote sincere efforts for peace in the region. Now Pakistan is seeking strategic partnership with Russia. In the agenda today, we will analyze this subject considering the impact it could have on India. We have with us retired diplomat Ambassador J.K. Tripathi and former Deputy Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh. But before we start our conversation, have a look at this small report.
Just a few days back, Russian ambassador to Pakistan, Danila Vitkani, met Pakistan's all-powerful army chief, General Qamar Javed Bajwa, and discussed the national security situation, Afghanistan situation, and enhanced bilateral defense cooperation. According to Pakistani media, the Russian ambassador during the meeting said Pakistan had made, quote, sincere efforts for bringing peace and stability to the region, especially the Afghan peace process, unquote. These reported remarks by the ambassador of Russia, which has been India's closest ally, are very significant considering that India has been repeatedly amplifying how Pakistan has been a destabilizing force in the region by spreading terrorism. This importantly comes weeks after Russia hosted a multi-nation conference in Afghanistan but kept India out of it, implying Pakistan's line that New Delhi has no stakes in the war-torn country. Another noteworthy development was the visit of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov to Pakistan along with India recently, and assuring Pakistan that Russia was ready to supply special military equipment to it and hold more joint military exercises. 2 years back, Russia and Pakistan also held joint military exercises for the first time in Pakistan. There are some of the instances which indicate that Russia, our closest allies, moving closer and closer to a hostile neighbor, Pakistan. These are some of the instances which indicate that Russia, closest ally, is moving closer and closer to a hostile neighbor, Pakistan. Bureau report.
Let's welcome our guests, Ambassador Tripathi and General Gurmeet Singh. Welcome to the program, both of you. So let me start with Ambassador Tripathi about the proximity between Russia and Pakistan, which is growing recently. We have seen over the last few years they are becoming closer and closer. Recently, now yesterday they have signed a deal also, gas pipeline agreement or renamed project. So how do you see that situation?
You see, Mr. Kaul, though it is said that Russia and Pakistan are coming closer by the day, and during the last 3 years, the relationship between the two countries have reached a new height. But let me tell you one thing, that like Pakistan says that China is its all-time, all-weather friend. And for all-weather friends, if 2 or 3 years down the line, we expect that China ditches Pakistan, then it will be too premature. We will be living in fool's paradise, because age-long relationship, 50 years or more, cannot be undermined by 2-3 years development. Exactly similarly, India and Russia's friendship has been now more than 50 years, rather 60-70 years. And during these 60 and 70 years, we have seen ups and downs, but relationship between the two countries has always remained steady and growing. To think that just because few agreements are signed by Russia or a few million of armaments of few million have been given by Russia, it doesn't mean that Russia has ditched India or Russia's relation with India have decreased. Because one thing whatsoever happens, howsoever deals, how many deals Russia signs or whatever, but Russia's stand on the key issue between India and Pakistan tussle, that is Kashmir, has been uh, always very clear, very crystal clear, and Russia has always taken India's side. So we cannot presume right now that Russia is distancing itself from India and coming very closer to Pakistan at the cost of its relationship with India.
Right. So let me point out, you said that some incidents can't determine any, I mean, where the relationship is going. Ambassador Patel, I'll point out two things, two developments rather. Recently, Moscow hosted a conference on Afghanistan, multi-nation conference, in which India was kept out. So it is at the cost of India. So one thing is that. Another thing is, I think 2 years back, Russia held joint military exercises against terrorism with Pakistan, even when India was opposed and India kind of expressed its opposition or unhappiness. So what do these developments tell you?
Well, I will start with the second development that you said,
Yeah.
joint exercise. Now, I think General Singh will corroborate that 4 years back, for 3 successive years, there were India-China joint military exercises. Does that mean that China has come very close to India?
No, China was coming closer to India. Later on, they betrayed us. That's a different thing.
No,
but
no.
we were coming closer.
China was never close to us. And second thing, but I mean, going by 2 or 3 joint military exercises does not mean one to infer that it has drifted from India. Second thing is, as you said, the conference on Afghanistan. After that, you see what Lavrov has said. Lavrov has said that when he visited, that we still feel that India's role in the area, in the region, is very important, and we will not ignore it.
Yeah, that's okay. That statement is okay. But I'm talking about actions they take and the talk they make. Like it's like China and Pakistan. So I'll go to General Gurmeet Singh. How do you see when Russia and Pakistan is our enemy, hostile enemy. So when our closest ally holds military exercises with our closest hostile enemy, so how do you see as a military man?
Firstly, and India bilateral relationship and defense cooperation is history tested and time tested. I think that's the first point. Secondly, if we look at the last visit of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei, at that time, he hyphenated his visit with after visiting India.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And few of the things which came up at that time was, on the face of it, it was told that they were discussing the situation in Afghanistan, Shanghai Cooperation Organization's enhanced cooperation, trade and economy. But in actuality, it came out that the Russia is quite perturbed about Quad meetings which have been held recently at the summit level. Secondly, the aspect was that they also referred about the Kashmir. So these two things were disturbing. Now, if you relate it to today's scene, that on 28th of May this year, they have signed Russia-Pakistan a deal on Pakistan Stream gas pipeline. In fact, I would like to tell you that the project started in 2015. It was postponed. In fact, now it has been restarted again. And this 1100 kilometer north-south pipeline is an important strategic venture for them. See, the important aspects are the two things that you talked about. Firstly, about the joint exercises, and secondly, regarding that conference on Taliban and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
See, I absolutely agree with sir saying that defense cooperation, a joint exercise is an ongoing thing. It doesn't really reflect the level of bilateral relationship or where do you stand as
No,
far
it
as
was
your
it
equation
was
is
for the
concerned.
first time Russia held joint military exercise with Pakistan.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. You know, you'll be surprised that the first visit by Russia to Pakistan was in 1969. And Musharraf visited them in 2003, and Russian Prime Minister visited them in 2007. In fact, if you look at, they have been on and off on this aspect of it, but they have actually, Russia is an export-oriented or dependent economy. Recently, what has happened is that India has switched to new markets for the military wherewithal, and we have gone in for a big purchases with the France, Israel, and the US, which has actually reduced the dependency on Russia. But at the same time, India has very, I would say, very pointedly conveyed to them that as far as the defense acquisition is concerned, it has to be on the multi-mode, it has to be on pluralism platform, and it has to be as per the requirement of the nation. These things do not have major effect. I don't think there's a big shift in Indian-Russia friendship or strategic relationship. It's the reality of India going in for modernization and I would say transformation as per the military requirement is concerned. But yes, definitely keeping in mind that what is going to happen in Afghanistan, if you look at the strategic landscape, it's very evident that Russia would like to have relationship with the Pakistan. Please pardon me.
Yeah.
Looking at the strategic perception, it is important for Russia to connect with the Pakistan because Pakistan has played a very dubious role in the Taliban leadership, training, and the anchors in Pakistan. Therefore, for the post, I would say, exit of the US forces from Afghanistan and Pakistan having, this dubious connect with them, and they are interfering with Afghanistan, it is important for Russia to connect with them and to ensure that they can control this area because Afghanistan arena has got a big effect on Russia itself.
Right.
And apart from that, the conference which they are trying to hold was keeping in mind that the post, I would say, US exit from this area, they would definitely like to have leverages and posturing in this area. That is the reality because of which I think they are coming a little closer to the Pakistan. But at the same time, as a military strategist, I would say that Pakistan is looking for T-90 tanks. Their requirement is about 360 tanks. They are looking for surface-to-air missiles, the Pantsir missile system. They are looking for some more Mi-35M attack afters, and they are also looking for some Mi-17 civil pattern type of afters. And apart from this, there are certain requirements for them. But you can see one thing for yourself, how Pakistan is wavering in this entire aspect. They depended upon US in totality at one point of time. They sold them through the route of debt and loan to the China. And now they are actually trying to parry up with the Russia. But Russia knows all these aspects.
Yeah. So, Ambassador Tripathi, so you heard General Gurmeet Singh talk about military aspects and all that. So the reality, he was talking about reality. So reality is also that India has been kind of making a shift towards the West, I mean the US. And that apparently has also been making Russia unhappy over the years that we are kind of shifting towards West, starting with the nuclear deal and then military cooperation and less, as you mentioned, about less dependence on Russia for the military equipment and armaments and defense equipment. So could that also be a reason that maybe Russia is now hobnobbing with our enemy?
You see, that might be a reason, but that might not have affected much. That might not have caused much difference. Because I fully agree with General Gurmeet Singh that, look, India has started its modernization in multi-market, multi-mode acquisitions. For that, it was necessary not to depend solely on Russia. And India has very finely balanced its requirement with Russia and USA. You remember when last year Trump threatened us for
S-400.
for our defense relationship with Russia? we clearly told that, look, S-400 is our requirement. And similarly, I am sure that we must have convinced Russia that whatever we are taking from USA as our military equipment is required, but that is not at cost of Russia. And second, Russia has now reduced one supplier of equipment, that fair equipment, to supplier of automobiles. And for this, Russia wants to seek new markets. And Pakistan is obviously one of the new markets that Russia will try. And as regards gas also, we are also trying to have Vladivostok-Chennai corridor. And also, you remember, we have invested 1 billion in East Europe,
Far East.
corridor. So I don't think Russia and Pakistan coming together, or we are going to a new height with USA, will worry Russia.
You about when we talk about military ties between India and Russia, which have been on the decline. Let us face it. So, like, when was the last big purchase we made from Russia? We know S-400, India has been talking that okay, it's on, but we have not. There is no delivery. It has been on hold, and only I think when military cooperation is AK-203, which is being manufactured jointly in Amethi. I mean, that is the only recent. I don't remember any big deal that Russia and India have signed in the military field. What do you say?
Ajay, there has been no shift as far as India and Russia defense cooperation is concerned.
No, I'm talking about
Let's be
purchase.
honest.
I'm talking about
Yes,
purchase.
yes, I'm coming to that. If you take your mind to September last year, when both Raksha Mantri and Foreign Minister had gone to Russia, still S-400 ballistic missile defense system is in the pipeline. Light tanks are being talked about. And as Indian Army's inventory of Air Force, aircraft, Raptors, air defense systems, and a large amount of spares and upgradation is dependent on defense cooperation between India and Russia. There is no slide down. But yes, I agree with you that there has been shift as far as the defense acquisition by India is concerned. It has shifted towards France, Israel, and the US bases. So I would say there has been a shift, but it is not totally off. Let's be clear about it.
Yeah, I know that it's not totally off, but I'll tell you one more example. In 2015, I think I had done a story about India was to purchase 200 helicopters, but then that deal was scrapped. After that, I think that was also, I mean, made Russia unhappy about. So there have been instances which Russia has been unhappy about.
Ajay, actually, I would say post COVID-19 and post US exit from Afghanistan, there are going to be many shifts as far as the geostrategy and geopolitics concerned.
Right.
These are some degrees of changes which will happen. And also, Russia has got to, from their own national security interest, they've got to be having a leverage as far as Afghanistan is concerned.
Yeah.
And it is known to the world that when Afghanistan is there and the ill route which Pakistan had taken, that has got a deep, I think their involvement was there for too long. So in this changing period, it is important to have a leverage with the Pakistan from Russian perspective.
Right.
I think, and apart from this, the big change which has happened is the formation of the Quad. And this definitely has affected the thinking as far as Russia is concerned. And I would say that apart from that, the Chinese belligerence and the way China has opened all the fronts and the realignment which are taking place, this is one part of it. But let me tell you one thing, that Pakistan is zero as far as dependability and reliability of relationship is concerned. It is known to switch loyalties from US to China to everywhere in the world. And everyone knows their focus on fundamentalism, extremism and terrorism. So it is not a major shift. It is only shift to handle the situation in Afghanistan in this current changing geostrategy and geopolitics of the world.
Right. So, Ambassador Tripathi, I'll come to you. As General Gurmeet Singh mentioned about the geostrategic shift, which I also see, because when US troops leave Afghanistan, there will be a kind of vacuum, which maybe Russia would be looking to fill through Pakistan, of course. And also there have been, lessening of relations between, America has been now trying to reduce its relations with Pakistan, particularly because its continued support to terrorism. So, are we seeing maybe a new shift in the whole global scenario, because China, Russia, Pakistan alliance growing, and we are going to have Quad and other things? What do you say?
You see, there will certainly, as General Gurmeet Singh has rightly observed, that post-COVID, there will certainly be a shift in the sense that countries will be more nationalistic in their foreign policies, and which has already begun with Trump administration's last few days, which started at signs of starting in America first policy, but it concentrated during the last. Now, one thing I must say, whatever we can see, whatever we can say or we can expect, but reality is that for Afghanistan problem, Pakistan is a very, very important integral part. Pakistan is the part which no country, be it Russia, be it China, or be it America, ignore. So that's why Pakistan's role there becomes very important. The second thing, as you said, shift Pakistan, Russia, and China, axis, as you are saying.
Yeah.
Now, 15th of June, Putin and Biden are going to meet in order to achieve a thaw in their bilateral relations in Geneva. So that again, if once America and Russia's relations are a bit calmed down, the tension, the ENTA has reduced, then you will see then Pakistan's utility will also be further diminished, because then Pakistan will be only dependent on China. So this thing, if it comes through, if America dialogue, which is going to be held on 15th of June in Geneva, if it produces some results, even if it's confidence building measures, then that means indications that for Pakistan will have to seek new relationship with Arab countries or intensify relations with Turkey and others.
Yeah.
So shift will be there. And if in Pakistan, Taliban again raises its head as it has started in Afghanistan, then certainly the accusing fingers will point towards Pakistan again. And this time not only from America, but from Russia as well. Because Russia has this big stake in Afghanistan. So that will be problematic for Pakistan. Shift is going on, but in a few months things will be more crystal clear.
Right. So, General Gurmeet Singh, last comments, because see, US also, is now kind of on the decline as Pakistan sees. I recently read about Pakistani leader, I think Imran Khan, was saying that we are fortunate to have growing relations with China, which is the future power. So they see China as the future power, which is going to replace USA. That is their observation. So how do you see that situation? Do you agree with that?
Firstly, I don't agree with the Pakistani perspective, because they are going deep into the problem. Because very intention with which they look at the diplomacy from the aspect of a collusiveness with the China or with the strategies of terrorism, they are bound to go into a problem. There is no doubt. But let me tell you one thing, Ajay, that the present maneuver between Russia and Pakistan is more of a diplomatic posturing rather than a shift. I would say this is hyphenating at the moment, just balancing the thing. One thing is definite with that US having planned exit from Afghanistan by 11 September this year, this is going to change many equations in this area. And they're getting ready for the post-US exit from Afghanistan. Apart from that, in those times when the US has already existed from here, what is going to be the situation in Afghanistan is the reading, diplomatic reading, and the strategic reading, which matters actually in the current dynamic. And I would say Russia is making an effort to have leverages within the Afghanistan in the post-US exit. And let me tell you one thing, that the Pakistan investment in the domain, in the strategic diplomatic domain, with the ill intention of having interference capability and nuisance capability in Afghanistan, is not going to pay them handsomely in this area, because they continue to be with the China as far as their, I would say, unholy collusiveness is concerned.
Yeah.
And I think that's we got to see the future from that perspective in two scenes. One is the post-COVID, and second is the post-US
Post-September 11.
from Afghanistan.
Yeah. So the situation is going to be very interesting, and I think maybe we have to keep a close watch. It is going to be how things will shape up. But the time of this program today is over. Thank you both of you for participating.
Jai Hind.
Yeah. This is all in the agenda today. Thank you for watching. Viewers, I have an important piece of information to share with you from June 2nd, that is coming Wednesday. Your favorite program, The Agenda, will be telecast at 6 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. Please take note. Meanwhile, I'll be back with another important and interesting topic tomorrow. Till then, take care and stay safe. Goodbye.